And yeah, it's good to finally have you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
I think we'll get right into it then. Would you like to tell us a little about your experience in career in comics? Like, were you reading when you were really young and knew you wanted to be an artist writer, or what's your journey?
Yeah, sorta. I wanted to be a comic artist when I was pretty young, and most of the way through high school. And for a little while, I kind of got tired. I was only reading like superhero comics, and I got tired of it for a while. So I just like left and just kind of lost interest from, I don't know, late teens into my early 20s or whatever. And then I moved to a bigger town with a comic shop that had like a wider variety, and I started to like see different types of things in the store, and I got curious again. And then once I started reading again when I was like, I don't know, maybe 25 or so, slowly but surely, I just really just wanted to make comics again. And then I never looked back. Here I am.
Nice. I think that mirrors the experience of some of our customers. In fact, they're like, "I'm so sick of, superheroes. What else can I read?" We said, "Check out this book."
Yeah, exactly. I felt the same way. Like I thought of comics as being superheroes for a while. I didn't realize that there's just like all kinds of different books out there, and I just didn't know they existed. But we have the internet now, so like all the information, of course, is available to us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So how'd you end up getting involved with Image?
Well, I self-published Headlopper for a little while. I think we did like two small volumes, so like about 65 pages or so. And I really liked doing it, and it helped get me get a conversation started with a couple publishers. They were curious, so even though they weren't working with me, they were curious about what I was up to, and so I started to talk to Dark Horse, and they pitched to me doing a graphic novel, like 100 pages, and they were like, "Hey, you could do Headlopper with it if you wanted," but I already knew I wanted Headlopper to be longer than that, so I was like, "Oh, I have this other idea," and we did Apocalyptic Girl, and about maybe halfway through drawing that, someone had given Eric Stevenson at Image the self-publish versions of Headlopper, and he was like, "Do you want to do this with us?" And I was like, "Yes, please," because I had no idea what I was going to do. I was like, I don't have a job after that. Like, please. So it was like serendipitous and worked out great.
Nice. And it's been a pretty smooth ride since then. Well, I guess except last week, I suppose. But.
Last week was bumpy, yeah. But they've been great. They've let me do pretty much whatever I want. Like one of the self-published issues that we had done for early Headlopper stuff was about 45 pages, and I just thought that was a fun length of time of like a page count. I like the pace of it and everything.
Yeah.
And, so when I told them I wanted to do those, but it would take me, 3 months to do it or whatever, I was like, "Hey, can we do this quarterly?" I was sure they'd be like, "Hey, that's not how comics work, like pound sand." But they were like, "Yeah, like if that's how you want to do it, then do it." And so they just, if I get an idea and I just run it by them, and they've always said go for it, whatever it was. So far, it's been amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I always love getting a new Headlopper because it feels so meaty and thick in your hands. Like,
yeah.
I've been waiting for this, so it's working out well, I think. So what's your process like? Obviously, you have a colorer and letterer, right?
Yep. So I write a full script for myself, which is a little atypical, I think, of people who write their own, who kind of draw their own work. So I write a really detailed script. It's got camera angles and like facial expressions written in there. Sometimes like it'll say like I'll try to make the largest panel on a page be the most important moment, or like maybe the moment that like you'd linger longest on. So I'll put notes as to like panel size and all that on there, and so it's like heavily detailed. And then I draw it, starting on page 1, I just draw it straight through. I do pencils and then straight to inks. I don't do like a lot of people will do, or some artists will do like a whole group of pencils and then a bunch of inks or whatever. I just do one and then the other. And then Jody Blair colors it these days, and my wife and I split the duties on lettering and design. More and more so, she's just become the main letterer, though. A lot of time, and she also improves my grammar greatly in that process.
There you go. And it's all like physical mediums?
Yeah, I draw on paper, the inks and everything are on paper, but the letters in color are all digital. I used to hand letter, but there was some project that had come up that time was tight on, and I was like, hey, like, I'm gonna skip doing hand letters this time. Like, can you get a letter on it? And they're like, sure. And I realized I was putting like, just on the hand lettering, I realized it was taking me like an extra 4 hours, and I was like, all right, I can't go per page, So after that, it's been just I use like Photoshop mostly for letters.
Nice. And with your colorist, do you give him the ideas for basically the colors you want to see throughout a page or something, or do they sort of work with you with that?
I try not to like hold the colorist's hand too much, especially working with I worked with Mike Spicer on the first volume, now Jordy Belair on the second, and I want them to feel like it's their own a little bit. But at some point I started to use like some kind of color themes, especially in the second volume. Each little world or each little like they go through a door and now it's like a whole nother world, and they have to get this like this crystal eye. So each world is color themed to the color of that crystal eye. So I just tell Jordy like, hey, this area is behind this door is like an orange world, and she'll run with it from there, and she'll do amazing things. Like one of them was a kind of like pink and purple world, and she slowly, to kind of increase the drama with colors, she started heavily purple, and then slowly as the panels went on to the end of that like story, they turned more and more pink. So it's like I give like a very broad note like pink or purple, and all of a sudden Jordy takes it to this whole other place.
How long do you see continuing Headlopper for? I know so your second just sort of finished up, your second volume. Do you have plans like way out in the future, or?
I keep it a little bit loose in my head, just so I can kind of mold things as I go, and I can come up with new ideas, and I don't kind of like bore myself. But I do picture it going for quite a while. As of right now, I imagine I probably shouldn't even say it, but my current idea is about 9 volumes. If I get it, if something makes me want to shorten it or make it longer or whatever, that's fine. And of course, like at the end of the day, it really it requires Image to give me the green to just keep on making the thing. I love making it. It's super fun. So as long as people read it, I think we'll keep making it.
Awesome.
The leprechaun, Jin.
Oh yeah. What about him?
He kind of speaks this like constructed language at one point, and I was just wondering like what he says.
Oh, you know what? I don't remember what he says, but it is a little bit of an Easter egg. It is there's like some kind of savage tribes in my graphic novel Apocalyptic Girl, and so I made them a whole language of symbols, and it didn't like exist like letter for letter with any language we know, but I would always know what they were saying. So I just recycled that language. Any Easter egg I usually put in is usually not found, but that's one of them. It's like this language that Nim speaks is the same exact characters that the kind of tribes in Apocalyptic Girl speak. Awesome. But otherwise, they're just nonsense symbols for fun.
There's a cool Easter egg though. So I thought about this a little bit earlier today while I was prepping for the club. Do you consider Norgal and Agatha friends?
No, not really. I kind of like, they're like, and I'll get into it more, they're kind of like stuck with each other. I think there are times where they tolerate each other and other times where they like really can't stand each other. Yeah. Mostly, at least at this point in the story, they still very much hate each other. They're like really reluctant. Agatha, like, there's nothing she can do about it. She has no arms or legs. She can't walk away. Right. And Norgal's kind of reasons are his own at this point. But that is something that I'm going to get deeper into. You know, for starters, I just thought they were a funny pair. But I was like, I mean, anyone who's going to read this for any length of time, they of course are going to be like, so if they hate each other, why are they together? So that is like in the third volume, I'm really going to kind of lay that out in greater detail.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, if I got 9 volumes, if I'm so lucky, I've got time. I'd like to think of them as them being different, you know, meaning something different to each other as time goes on. You know, maybe it's sometimes they need each other or other times they don't. And so I don't know. I'm kind of leave it open to see whatever, because like, there's also that thing, like whatever they go through together, they carry together. Mm-hmm. So I imagine at some point they may be friends, but it's hard to imagine that lasting very long.
Yeah, I just noticed, you know, like sometimes Norgal will throw her a hand or whatever to munch on, and every once in a while she'll relent and help him out. But you know, yeah, there's always some contention there too. So.
Yeah, I think above all else, maybe greater than her hate for Norgal, she more loves the chaos. So I feel like every once in a while Norgal will kind of be like, you know, like maybe we can be friends, maybe you won't be such a pain in my ass. and every time he thinks that it might be working out to his benefit, he realizes that he can't predict Agatha, and she's just a nut job. She loves chaos more than anything else.
Right.
In the book, Agatha talks to a skull, and it doesn't say anything until the very end. It says, "Hurtful." How hurtful? Is the skull of somebody important, or is it just a random skull?
No, I think he's just a random skull. I never really thought much beyond it being like the skull being some oddball item that those witches had collected from other poor souls they had like tortured or fed to the bug that they kind of like brought up from some, I don't know, some under region of the world. Yeah, I don't think he had, or she for that matter, had any like personality in mind. And that joke was that little extra joke at the end I came up with like much later. You know, I came up with that joke when it was, you know, when I was putting the kind of larger collection together rather than during the actual like the writing and drawing of volume. I mean, what was that? That was the 3rd issue or something. Yeah, but that joke, and I have a small collection of like one-off like Agatha alone jokes, and because at one point I was thinking it'd be fun if, I mean, just for fun, there would be like an Agatha, like a comic strip, like they were just like a series of jokes that Agatha could have all by herself when no one was around, and maybe she'd be interacting with a spider or a skull or just talking to herself. And so I wrote all these jokes in this like Word file, and at some point I was like, I don't have time to do this whole extra thing just for fun. And so now I go back to that file and I pepper all those little jokes wherever they fit or whatever. If there's like if I'm just like, this issue's not funny enough or Agatha has nothing to do, let's find an Agatha joke. And so that was one of them. That was one of the jokes that I had kind of written to be a one-off, and then I kind of like twisted it to kind of be this fun little like after the credits sequence of a movie type joke, you know, at the end of volume 1.
Nice. That is a hilarious scene there. And I have a quick question for you. As I was reading through, I'm a huge fan of fantasy, and you do a bunch of fantastic fantasy world building in there. And I have to wonder if you're an avid player or fan of Dungeons and Dragons.
No, I'm not. I wish though. I did, when I grew up, I grew up in a small town. I literally didn't know anyone who played it. You know, a handful of people collected like magic cards, but no one knew how to actually play the things. And so it wasn't until later in life where I was like, yeah, like I need to like find some people to play Dungeons and Dragons with, because I don't know anybody. But there's like a game bar that just like opened up down the street from me, and first thing I did was like, you guys do Dungeons and Dragons? Because like, I don't know, I got to get in on it. You know, you're right.
What did they say?
What's that?
What did they say?
Yeah, they have like several games a week. So
I was going to say, Freakopolis is a game shop as well. You could always join us.
Yeah, no, you have the makings of a really incredible dungeon master or player, so that would be super exciting to see.
well, it just seems like a lot of fun. I have some friends that I met more recently who play, and they're like, "Yeah, you got to get in on it."
Yeah.
We'll vouch for it.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
What are you reading as far as comic books, or even just like not comic books, just reading in general?
I just let's see. I read for a long time. I read the Foffer and the Grey Mouser stories. They're by Fritz Lieber. They're kind of like your kind of Conan type stories. And these two oddball swordsmen. Those are amazing. So I'm taking a break from those. I didn't finish them all, and I'm reading. I busted out some more Lovecraft. But for comics this year, I read a lot of Mobius stuff. I read the Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa manga like twice this year because it's just so good. Read a lot of Jaime Hernandez this year. I'm trying to think if I'm reading anything kind of like modern at the moment. I just broke out. No, I think I'm only reading old stuff right now. I'm reading. I jumped back into Lone Wolf and Cub. Some of those stories like the Lone Wolf and Cub stuff, and even the Lovecraft stuff. I'll read some stuff, and then when I'm like, I don't know what to read, I'll go and I'll read, a section of Lone Wolf and Cub, or I'll read a section of like Lovecraft, and then I'll go out and find something new. But that's basically been my year. It was like Foffer and the Grey Mouser, Jaime Hernandez, Mobius, and Miyazaki's Nausicaa manga. Those are the big ones this year.
When we look at your books, you inevitably look for, well, who influenced this artist or this writer, And so earlier, as we were discussing Head Lopper Volume 1, we were kind of bouncing around who we saw as influences or potential influences in your work. And I don't think there's any embarrassment to be had there. It was all, we felt like Mike Mignola and Hellboy's stuff could have played some influential parts. But it doesn't sound like it's there. It's
well, no, but it was there particularly early on. So Hellboy was a big part of me getting into comics when I was a little older, and also a big part of wanting to make comics. So I think that my Mignola influence, even though I don't spend as much time as I used to with Mignola's stuff, it's kind of a part of me. It's a building block for my work, and I learned a lot about what comics, can be, through Hellboy.
Sure.
And it's also a bit of a choice to spend less time with Mignola's stuff. I'm aware of how much it impacted me when I found his work. It was a big part of making me want to make comics in general. And so I didn't want his voice in me to be overly dominant. So I made a choice, as painful as it was, I made a choice to spend a little less time studying his work and go find some others, so that hopefully my own voice would be a little more diverse rather than just, Mignola and artists who are similar to Mignola.
yeah. So then why? One of the other things that we were talking about was you have sort of several different levels that you detail a given panel. Sometimes the Head Lopper is shown, it's very kind of raw outline sort of things, with just color fills and that's it. And then other ones with a lot more line work and detail and musculature and everything. Is what drives that?
Honestly, it's not a good answer, but it's usually just my gut. It's like once I'm sitting there working it out, it's I sometimes think of it as what's the focus? It's hard to describe, but I feel like you can think to yourself how do I draw a banana? And you can think of it in all its details when it comes to that, but like in life, in passing, that's not really how you think of a banana. You just get this like flash of it, just an impression. So like I try to think of it that way in these simplified versions to help focus on the things that are kind of important. So like if, for example, if an important part of a panel is maybe Norgal's expression or Norgal's lack of expression, I'm gonna not do the just all white beard face version of Norgal where it's just like two dashes for lines and upside down V for a mustache or whatever. I'm gonna like zoom in and actually show you like his face if his, like I said, his facial expression or lack thereof is important. But if it's like an action sequence or something, or we're zoomed out a little bit on Norgal, I'm comfortable with like drawing next to nothing for his face or whatever. But yeah, and the same thing. I forgot the exact quote, but I read something that Miyazaki. No, sorry, not. David Mazzucchelli had said about drawing the things that are actually like important. So especially if something's in the background or whatever, you could still draw it in a nice way without having to draw much, because you don't actually need like the tree in the background to steal all the attention away from the people who are talking. You know what I mean? So I try to think of stuff like that. What is maybe hopefully a strong storytelling decision rather than just a busy art decision. And I don't know, mostly my gut though.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's see. You've done a number of pieces this year, from like covers on curse words and deadly class, right? And then those few pages in Thor too. What was that like?
It was great. It was something I've wanted for a while. I love. It's a lot of fun making your own comic and just like writing it and drawing it. You get whatever you want, but it is fun to kind of play with other people's toys. So. Getting a few invitations for my friends' projects or from creators that I didn't know very well. And I was just surprised that they would want me to work on their book. Yeah, it was awesome. I don't read a lot of superhero comics, but now, but when I was a kid, it was all I read. So to get to work on any Marvel property, was really awesome. And I only did 2 pages for it, but it was such a big, like kind of emotional, like, bucket list check mark to be like, yeah, I get to work on Thor. I read Thor when I was a kid. That's rad.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really cool to see your stuff show up there because we're familiar with your work with Image, so we're fans, and so when we get to see your stuff show up in Marvel and in other titles, we're like, hey, check it out, Sandra Maclean.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's, as a fan of the artist's work, it's sometimes fun to see someone else's interpretation of a character you might already be familiar with, so I'm glad you dig it.
Yeah, your Loki is awesome.
Oh, thanks.
It actually made me think of a question, is if there was somebody doing a variant cover for Headlopper per se, do you have somebody who's like a dream person to do a Headlopper variant cover?
It's tough. I've been really lucky. I've gotten people to do pinups and variant covers that already were like my dreams. Like Mignola did even when we were self-publishing it was pretty random. I didn't really know him, but he had done like a piece of fan art of Headlopper fan art and like sent it to me. He's like, here, I did this drawing and we used it as a pinup. Like, I didn't expect that. Like after that, it was, that was too good to be true kind of moment. So yeah, I mean, and it's kind of funny. It's the first and second volume. I kind of was starting to focus on some artists that were like I was hoping to get artists who I had a lot of respect for and felt really like legendary, and that was really fun and awesome. But going forward, I've been thinking about getting some more. There's just so many artists who have like, I don't know, like only 100 Instagram followers, but their art is like really amazing. Like there's just a handful of like, I don't know, just young kids who are like painting really awesome like things that look like heavy metal covers and stuff. So going forward, I kind of want to start getting some more of that kind of stuff because it's not on comics shelves right now. I love the idea of things feeling like, gig posters or like fantasy paintings and things, and we'll see. But I don't know. I wish I had a good name for you because I feel like I've already been lucky. I had Mike Allred and Raphael Grandpa and James Stocco, and that was right off the bat. I don't know how I pulled that off because already a dream list, right from go.
Nice. Anybody else have any other questions?
I got one more, I guess.
Yeah,
if you had to pick, say, an album to be the soundtrack to Head Lopper, what do you think the soundtrack to Head Lopper?
Honestly, it's tempting to say something like maybe one of the Mastodon albums, or maybe like a Symphony X album or a Blind Guardian album, because I listen to those a lot while I'm working on it. But there's this band that I don't know. I kind of just found it on Spotify. They're a band from Denmark, and I pronounce their name Tyr usually, but it's pronounced Tyr, and there's like a little accent on the Y, so I don't know. They're not even. They're like from. Yeah, it's like one of the small independent islands of Denmark, so like very remote or whatever. But yeah, so they're a power metal band like Blind Guardian or something, the exact type thing that you'd expect to be a soundtrack. But I think the name of their album I'm thinking of is Blood of Heroes, and it's just so epic and just like the guitars are screaming and the vocals are it's just bonkers. It's like exactly what you just think of. You hear it and you think of a big guy with a big sword killing people. It's just great.
Perfect. Any word on when reprints are coming for?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure when it is. I need to hit him back up. It was such a clumsy thing for all of us to be like, wait, there's a problem. We found it really last minute, and it took us a while to figure out like where things went wrong. And they're like, all right, we'll get this out to reprint and we'll let you know when it is. And I haven't heard back, so hopefully soon. I'm hoping that it's like on the way, and I just haven't. They just didn't give me word yet because it doesn't usually take too long. They can turn a print around fast usually.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we're all looking forward to it. Is there anything else you'd like to plug, or anything you've been watching or listening or playing lately?
I just watched Dark on Netflix. It's a new series that Netflix did, and I think it's a German show. And you can watch in subtitles or dubbed or whatever. And it's all this weird time traveling stuff in caves and all this nonsense. And it's really kind of confusing at the beginning because there's like several dozen characters. But once you get a couple episodes into it, it's bizarre and dark and cool. But otherwise, yeah, the volume 2 is on its way for Headlopper. I think that's in April, and I'm most of the way through drawing like an extra story for the back of it, and then some other behind the scenes things and goodies or whatever. So I'm pretty excited for that. I think that's out April 4th. Otherwise, I am trying to find a chunk of time to just do a mini comic, and maybe I'll kickstart it as a kind of like pre-order system or something, but. Just probably like a 14-page, like a kaiju comic kind of thing. I'm thinking.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, otherwise just volume 2.
Well, we're super excited for volume 2.
Thanks so much.
Cool. I think that'll do it for us then. I can't thank you enough for joining us, everybody. Andrew Maclean.
Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, dude.
We're going to hit you up to come back and visit us again this way, though.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Awesome.
Good night, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great beard, man.
Yeah.